The Intercept is reporting that the Michael Bloomberg campaign has been exploiting prison labor in order to make phone calls for his presidential campaign. Now, as well as a TYT contributor, I'm also the DC bureau chief over at The Intercept. And it turned out that Bloomberg's campaign said it wasn't aware that it had incarcerated women in Oklahoma making calls on their behalf. And when we at The Intercept reached out to them, they immediately ended the contract with both their immediate vendor and the subcontractor who was making the phone calls. So first a couple of details. There's a company called Procom that runs call centers in New Jersey and Oklahoma. Turns out that 2 of those call centers in Oklahoma are in women's correctional institutions, and at least one of those, probably at both, but at least one, women were making calls, and they were saying at the end of it, this was paid for by the Bloomberg for President campaign. But what I really want to talk about is Michael Bloomberg's reaction to it and how badly he botched it. Now, to me, the problem is mass incarceration, not necessarily that people are working while they're in prison. And the problem is exploitation of the people who are working. Now, Bloomberg's initial reaction, his instant reaction, was to fire the women, not to say what were these women being paid, what were the conditions that they were working under, how can I make this right, and how can I make sure that this is actually a useful opportunity for the women in this prison. Instead, it was just right out of the gate, this is toxic, get rid of them. And they came flat out against prison labor. So the official policy now of the Bloomberg campaign is to be against all prison labor. Now, that might sound like some sort of kind of woke position, but imagine that you're one of the 2+ million people who is in prison today. You know, if you could wave a magic wand, swing open the doors, and end mass incarceration tomorrow, that'd be wonderful. You're not going to do that. So in the meantime, you actually have to care about the people who are incarcerated, and having something to do with your day is something that a decent number of prisoners actually want to do. And the problem comes in with the way that they're exploited financially. Now, according to Procom, which is the contractor or the subcontractor that was working with the Bloomberg campaign, they pay $7.50 an hour. Or $7.25 an hour. That's the Oklahoma minimum wage, but they pay it to the Oklahoma Department of Corrections. According to the Oklahoma Department of Corrections, you're not allowed to make more than about $20 per month in the job that you're doing. So not only is the contractor getting extremely cheap labor at the Oklahoma minimum wage, but then the Department of Corrections is stripping that money away so that they can continue to build more prisons, so they can clog up their deficits from slashing taxes in Oklahoma and otherwise. So instead of grappling with some of these ethically thornier questions, the Bloomberg campaign just came right out and said, we're against all prison labor and we're cutting ties with this organization. But what it does say about the Bloomberg campaign is that if you're spending tens of millions of dollars a week on your presidential campaign, there's just no way that you're going to be able to monitor it with any effectiveness. And it also shows kind of a lack of grassroots activism if you have to be out paying people to be on the phone for you, though we don't know if they're actually running polling surveys or what. We still have some reporting that we need to do from inside the prison to find out what's going on. All in all, didn't go well for the Michael Bloomberg campaign, and in a lot of ways, it was a fitting end to the year 2019. We knew the year probably had to end with some type of absolutely ridiculous story, and it turned out that it was a billionaire exploiting incarcerated workers for his presidential campaign.